Welcome to the Dr. Diane Show, where we explore revolutionary expansion of mind, body, and soul with me, Dr. Diane Hayden. With over 20 years of expertise as a mindset warrior, perspective shifter, and unshakable optimist, I am dedicated to helping you reach your wildest dreams in business, health, performance, and relationships. Learn about the power of thought and how it shapes your life to take risks, change careers, find love, go on adventures, and live passionately with me, Dr. Diane. Get ready for revolutionary ways of thinking, being, and creating an amazing life. The Dr. Diane Show starts now. Hello, everyone. I am Dr. Diane Hayden, and you are listening to the Dr. Diane Show on Transformation Talk Radio. Stay with us for the next hour, where we will explore revolutionary expansion of mind, body, and soul. Each time on the Dr. Diane Show, we have experts from around the country discussing cutting-edge topics on longevity medicine, natural health, nutrition, mindset, and soul purpose to help you shift your perspective and become a mindset warrior like me. I'm excited to have with me today Donna Bunte of Donna Bunte Whole Health. She's been practicing Chinese medicine and holistic health since 1996, when she graduated from Chinese Medical School in New York City. She has a master's degree in Chinese medicine, is an herbalist and licensed acupuncturist, as well as an integrative nutrition health coach. Donna's holistic approach to wellness looks at all aspects of her client's life to find where the imbalances and weaknesses are in their individual cases. She uses Chinese medical diagnosis, acupuncture, herbal medicine, integrative nutrition counseling, and the mind-body techniques of qigong and meditation to help people find balance within the body, mind, and spirit, as well as their connection to the world around them. One of Donna's specialties is women's health concerns from puberty through menopause, including fertility issues, which are so prevalent in women today. So welcome, Donna. How are you today?
I'm very well, thank you. I'm going to make one correction. As you say my last name, Bunte.
Bunte. I should have asked you that all these years.
No.
I'm thinking like the cake.
Right.
No, it's Bunte. Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for having me. I am very happy to be here with you. We've known each other for many years and never really did anything like this.
Yeah, no, I know. You've been a long time writer and advertiser in Natural Nutmeg, and I've known a little bit about your story from some of your articles, but we're going to talk a lot more about that today. And that's where I kind of like to start, because I think listeners are very interested in how someone got involved in natural medicine and all of the different, Chinese medicine techniques that you use, combining mind, body, and meditation and all of that. So let's start there. What got you into natural medicine?
Well, very first, when I moved to New York, I had these heart issues, actually. I was having heart pain, chest pain, and I went to a cardiologist, and he said, I had a horrible murmur, basically, and they put me on, heart medicine, which was very sedating, and it was just terrible, in my early 20s. And I looked into this condition, which a lot of people have, mitral valve prolapse. And I learned that sugar can aggravate mitral valve prolapse. The doctor never asked me a thing about what I ate. And when I told them, about this article I read saying that it can totally aggravate all sorts of things in the body, which I didn't know at the time, he said, "Oh, that's no way that sugar can affect your heart." Mm-hmm. So I proceeded to eliminate sugar from my diet for, even little bits, no alcohol, nothing with added sugar, and my condition went away completely.
So let me just ask you a question, because I think people have heard of the term mitral valve prolapse, and
yes.
But it can range from as simple as like a heart murmur, which I actually have. So a doctor can kind of pick it up on the, when he's listening with the stethoscope. There's like a certain noise that it makes, to where kind of the valve might dip a little bit. To it could be, the valves can be very like flappy or leaky to the extent where somebody actually needs like a repair or a valve replacement. So where were you on that spectrum?
I was pretty far on the spectrum. It was not working great, and it would stay open. It would, flutter. It was painful, actually. And it's amazing how I just stopped having sugar, and
Wow.
it completely went away.
So
And they can't even find traces of it now.
that's pretty amazing because the people that I've known who have had this condition, depending on how bad it is, and have had to actually go to get a valve repair or even replacement, which is the what they do is they basically replace it with like a
Big
pig
valve.
valve. Yeah. And then that's only going to last you like 15 years, let's say,
Right.
best case
Right.
scenario. So you kind of want to push that off as long as
Exactly.
you can. But I've never heard of anyone using any kind of natural therapy and coming back from that. So it's amazing that I'm
It's
hearing this
amazing.
from you
And
because
I was 21, and
wow.
then I started researching eating healthy, because at the time, I don't know why, but I guess through college, I was eating junk food, and I used to eat, a lot of M&Ms per day. And, and I would just crash and burn and be very tired. And I was getting all sorts of other problems too, skin problems. Anyway, everything just cleaned up. I lost probably 15 pounds, and it just, started my journey with food. And since then, I've become an avid cook, and in the last 10 years, I've become a integrative nutrition health coach, because I have obviously learned that food can heal. I mean, it is thy medicine, right?
Yeah.
It is a part of Chinese medicine as well, but most people don't think of that. And it's, when you're talking about Chinese medicine and food, you're talking about, are you hot, are you cold, are you wet or dry, and you're diagnosing with from a different point of view as opposed from a Western perspective. So I felt like I needed both aspects of food nutrition.
Yeah. So when you say you cut out all sugar, obviously alcohol, nobody's going to want to hear that, but um, like, so the obvious things are, your desserts and sweets and things like that. But there's sugar in a lot of things like fruit sugars, carbohydrates. Like, how far did you go?
I even eliminated um, a lot of fruit. I would have a lot of berries and things, and I definitely eliminated white refined products, flour. Um, I had whole grains, but I didn't have pasta, even whole wheat pasta. Uh, for that first year, I just went really back to basics, and just did a lot of research. I mean, this was back in the 80s, and there wasn't as much information as we have now on metabolizing even complex carbohydrates. But so I just went back to its original form. I would have quinoa, brown rice, different whole grains, but not so much. I was still eliminating. I was having more fish and vegetables, and as less carbohydrates.
Yeah. And probably not eating out at all.
None.
Right. Yeah. Because you can't control it. You have no idea what's in,
What's in
you
it?
know,
There's sugar in
yeah.
tomato sauce. There's sugar in ketchup. There's sugar in everything. So I just, it was amazing how much better I felt. Um, and it really started me on my journey. And then after that, I was living in New York City, and I started studying qigong and tai chi way back then, and it just kind of opened my eyes to Chinese medicine. And then at a certain point, I developed these ovarian cysts, and my doctor said, oh, there's nothing you can do about them. And I researched Chinese herbal medicine myself, which I don't recommend.
Why? Because
Because you can get sick if you don't
got you.
do.
No, so you're what you mean by you researched it, you tried it on
I
yourself.
did. I got
Yeah.
formulas. I lived pretty close to Chinatown, and I said, I need some of this. And it made my ovarian cysts go away. So, I mean, that was an experiment. And, since then, I, of course, become an herbalist, and I see how many years it takes to understand this. And so it is medicine. So you don't want to just randomly take some Chinese herbs.
Right.
Yeah,
they're powerful. I mean, they have pharmaceutical qualities, like,
yes.
all herbs have that. And
I
it's
mean,
interesting because yeah, you really need to work with someone like yourself, someone who's been trained in this, because we don't think of it like pharmaceutical drugs, but
you think, oh, just have some chamomile, right? But certain herbs can kill you in excess, and it can cause an abortion. It can do all sorts of things. So you just need to know what you're doing, or talk to somebody who does.
right.
Well,
Well,
I started studying it, and it was just so fascinating when it's thousands of years of study. And then, of course, I learned about Western herbal medicine, and it's a little simpler. Actually, they call them simples because they usually use 1 or 2 herbs in a formula, whereas Chinese formulas can have 20.
Wow.
They balance each other with their energetics. Is somebody, like I was saying before, in Chinese medicine, we diagnose someone by their constitution. Are you hot and dry, or damp and cold? So you would want to have herbs that counteract that. And also you look at the diet that way too. So if somebody's very heavy and lethargic and has we would call dampness, you would not have, say, yogurt, cold, damp foods. You would have herbs that help to counteract that, to stimulate the digestion, and create heat. So
yeah, it's sounding very Ayurvedic to me.
it's very similar. They both emerged at similar time. Actually, I think Chinese medicine came first, but they cross over and influence each other. And actually, I use Ayurvedic herbs in my practice as well, because maybe they do something better than,
right.
And we look at each person individually. It's not like,
Right.
Okay, you have a headache, take an Advil.
Right.
What's caused your headache?
Yeah.
Is it excess energy, heat rising?
Exactly.
Is it muscle pain? Is it deficiency because
we're going to get, I love where this is going. We're going to get into more of that, but we're going to take a short break. You're listening to the Dr. Diane Show with me, Dr. Diane Hayden. When we come back, we'll explore more with Donna Bunte. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. We're back on the Dr. Diane Show with me, Dr. Diane Hayden. But before we continue, I want to make sure everyone knows how to contact me. You can find me at www.drdianehayden.com, or at either of my 2 publications, www.naturalnutmeg.com or www.essentialnaples.com. And you can learn more about Donna Bunte at www.donnabunte.com. That's DONNABUNTE.com. So welcome back, Donna. We were talking about sort of the similarities between Ayurvedic medicine and Chinese herbal medicine. I kind of wanted to go a little bit further down this road with you, because you started describing, like, if a person is hot and dry, they wouldn't have certain foods versus if they're cold or damp. How do you determine that? Is it basically like just asking the person, do you feel like, are you always hot or are you always freezing? Is that like how you make those determinations, or is it more about like looking at them physically?
It's a combination of all the above. And we read the pulse from a Chinese medical point of view. And it's not just, is your pulse fast or slow, but is it thin or thick or choppy or slippery? All different.
A slippery pulse.
Yeah. And
Oh
there's
my God, that's
3 positions, which are
yeah.
here on the wrist. And it tells me about the upper, middle, and lower organs. So there's a quality to, the lungs and the heart, the digestive system, and the kidneys and the bladder. So there's a quality to the pulse, which tells me, are you stressed? Are you excess? Are you deficient? Are you, exhausted? And like, for instance, your kidney pulse corresponds in Western medicine to your adrenals. And so if you're adrenal deficient, you'll have a very almost non-existent kidney pulse. So that'll corroborate with she's tired, and maybe pale. And then we also look at the tongue. And the tongue has a geography, and the sides are the liver and gallbladder. And then the center, we have the stomach. The tip is the heart. So, is it puffy? Is there a thin white coat or a thick yellow coat, which shows some heat, or a red tip, which shows some emotional? In the heart, we say the heart holds the emotions. So if someone's pretty anxious, they might have a red tip of their tongue and a puffy sides of the tongue, and telling me their liver is stressed out, dealing with stress and anxiety. So we look at all these things. And of course, they fill out a 7-page intake form. Dissertation.
Just a few short questions.
Just a few short questions. And a lot of them have, Chinese medical slants to them. Do you, I don't know, do you tend to be hot or cold? Or, do you wake up at 3 a.m? There's a Chinese clock, when at each hour it relates to a different organ. So if a lot of people wake up between 3 and 4, say 2 to 4, 1 to 3, and that's the time of the liver and the gallbladder, which when we're dealing with stress, it goes crazy. It's the springtime is also the time of the liver and gallbladder. So they often get stressed because we have lots of energy and excitement, new growth, and all these things. So we're looking at a lot of different things to put it together. And, is their face red? Is it, pale and ashen, the color of their eyes? And, so we really do look at the whole picture. And also, what do they eat? If they eat a lot of red meat, drink red wine, and then they complain about anxiety and heart palpitations, I would say that they have too much heat in the body, and that they should eliminate those things that cause heat, because food has its own energetics, and red meat is very hot. Even if it's eaten cold, it's
right.
It's hot energetic.
Right. It's not a matter of the temperature of the food.
No.
Like you just said, it's the energy of the food.
I mean, the way you cook something can create more heat. Like grilling creates a lot of heat, whereas if you steam food or fish or vegetables, it's much cooler. Or chicken, it's a different type of heat. It's a wet heat. So we look at all these things.
And would you say that when you create a diet for somebody, let's just say, or advise them on what they should, whether they should be eating foods that are hotter or foods that are cooler, let's just say, is that something someone should be doing for life, let's say, or they do it for certain periods of time, maybe like seasonally? How do you recommend?
My husband's playing music. Can we take a break for a second?
I can't hear it. I can't hear it.
Can you hear it?
No,
Okay.
not at all.
Ah. Um, it's maybe just for the season until the season changes or their condition changes. But most people do have a type of constitution, so they, may need to stick to it. They tend to be a certain way.
Right. So they would do it more like on a permanent basis versus, well, I'm going to eat a certain way because it's springtime or summertime or fall or whatever. But I think that generally, well, maybe depending on where you live, generally our diets do and maybe should change a little bit based seasonally because you want to be eating foods that are more in season. Like you want,
Exactly.
and you don't want to be eating the same thing, day in and day out for, the entire year.
No, and depending where you live. If you're living in a cold climate in the winter, you don't want to have as many raw foods,
Right.
salads, things. We want to have warming foods. The winter is the time of the kidney and the bladder, and it's good to have warm liquids like soups. So those are good things to have. And then people in Florida say, what should I have?
Right. I was going to say that.
Well, it doesn't have to be quite as hot, especially if it's humid. Maybe you don't want to have those damp, soups, wet soups. I would say less dairy in a damp climate, for sure. So it really does depend where you live.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And your constitution and what's going on with your body and at the current time. So it's very individual. It's
Right.
never the same prescription, although, certain, weather effect. If you're all in the same location, then that weather affects you. But maybe you're not damp. Maybe you're hot and dry, so you can handle some dairy, for instance, even if you live in the South.
Right. Yeah. Have you recommended that people relocate to certain areas based on, they'll
Right.
feel better because of
Yeah.
this, their constitution?
Yeah, it's interesting. I do say, well, you have to, deal with that and maybe change your diet, first of all, and maybe your lifestyle. Not everybody can move, but
Right.
people who have allergies, they leave. And I know lots of people who have really bad circulation. They just can't handle the Northeast anymore because they have, their fingers get purple, and there are things you can have more warming foods to help that. And there's herbal formulas that can help with, say, Raynaud's disease, which is, peripheral circulation problems. But, those people still always get cold. I mean, maybe it improves a bit, but it's tough, especially if you're used to Florida.
Yep.
Or
Yeah. I mean, I can tell you, so I honestly feel like sometimes I'm a little bit of both. Like I can be, and tell me if you know, you have worked with people like this or whatever, but there's times where I feel like I'm really hot and dry, but there's other times when I'm like freezing. And it's definitely, I definitely feel a huge difference being in Florida for the winter because it was just, the weather in Connecticut just affected everything. I think it obviously clearly my mood, but I think also digestion and all kinds of stuff. So I think, but sometimes I've noticed though, when like I wouldn't want to be in Florida in the summer because I think that it would get too hot for me.
right, me too. I don't like that extreme either.
Right.
So I think, with time you can adapt to these places. or conditions. People lived in the Northeast for many years, and they adapted.
Yep.
If you're sickly or have poor circulation, then you suffer more than someone else would.
Right.
And you
Right.
can only put so many layers on. But I
Yeah.
do.
That is true. That is true. Awesome. Well, you're listening to the Dr. Diane Show with me, Dr. Diane Hayden. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll be talking more with Donna Bunte. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. We're back on the Dr. Diane Show with me, Dr. Diane Hayden. I am talking today with Donna Bunte. She is a licensed acupuncturist and integrative nutrition health coach. You can learn more about her at www.donnabunte.com. That's DONNABUNTE.com. So when we left, we were talking about whether or not people should relocate based on their constitution. And now I think with everything that's happened since COVID, I think so many people have so much more flexibility with how they
Yes.
work and where they work that we're seeing a huge influx in Florida,
Yes.
of
Oh,
people from all
yes.
over.
I agree. And people are choosing to move to a place that suits them better.
Exactly.
If you
But it's
can.
cool. It would be cool to, like just make people aware of that's something to consider, like how do you feel? Are you always cold? Are you always hot? What are the kinds of foods you like to eat? Like, I think people sometimes when we think about like, well, where do I want to live? We tend to focus more on just recreation. Like, what do I want to do recreationally? Or maybe we are moving for a job or whatever, but
Right.
it's definitely something to give thought to.
Exactly. And what's the weather like, and what do I eat, and maybe what's even local there. The whole idea of eating tropical fruit in the winter is, our bodies are really not, if we're living in the Northeast and having pineapple, it's actually really goes against our natural constitution to do that.
Yeah.
So we should be having seasonal foods, but now we can get everything.
Well, right. And that makes it crazy too, like to try to, and people want, it's so funny. One time I was interviewing this chef who had a farm to table restaurant, and he was completely obsessed with doing everything local.
Mhm.
Like all of his ingredients, as much as possible, were local. Like he wouldn't use lemon. It was up in Maine because you couldn't grow it. And he had something else that he substituted for pepper or whatever it was. And I remember him saying that he had such a struggle to get people to like appreciate his restaurant and his menu because it was so hyper focused on not only local but seasonal. And I remember him saying to me, "You wouldn't believe how badly people want tomatoes in January." And it's just not, like they cannot like they people could not move past this idea that you shouldn't be eating a tomato in January. Half the time it's going to taste terrible anyway. It's mealy, whatnot. But it's just, like you don't need it on your salad. Have something else that's seasonal. And people were just,
No, we're too used
yeah,
to having what we want when we want it. But at some point, I think that's going to come back to bite us because of, flying produce all the way around the world. And it's not going to be sustainable, I think,
I agree.
with fuel and all these things. I think hopefully we will relook at all of these things at some point.
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely, definitely. So you
Yeah.
told us a little bit about the heart problems that you had that got you into what you do. I know there were some other health challenges that you've had that have kind of shaped how you've built your practice. And so I wanted to, get into that a little bit so people understand, what you've had to deal with. Because a lot of times I think we look at our practitioners and we're like, well, they went and they studied everything, but did they really understand the challenge
Mhm.
that I'm having? So tell us about that.
Well, let's see. I my husband and I got married in, let's see, when was that? 92. And I was not able to get pregnant. And at the time, I was traveling all over the world. I had a pretty stressful, exciting life. I was in fashion, and I, was jetting everywhere and having a great time, but not necessarily taking care of myself. So I had very painful, long periods, menstrual periods, and it was just, debilitating. I was not eating great. And this was after I had already done my whole nutrition research. And this was, at least 10 years later. But it was because of my lifestyle that I became unhealthy in a different way. I wasn't eating badly, but I had a lot of stress in my life. I wasn't having sugar probably at the time, but so it was recommended to me to go to an acupuncturist, a Chinese medical practitioner. So I did about 2 months worth of acupuncture, and I had never had acupuncture before. And I had been, learning about Chinese herbs and how you kind of diagnose, but I didn't know the whole picture of Chinese medicine. And I said, oh, that makes a lot of sense, because I've been very interested in the Tai Chi and qigong and the herbs. I need to learn about this too. So I went sort of on an experiment, and the Chinese doctor, convinced me to come weekly for 2 months, and everything changed. I had no pain, everything was regular, and I was able to get pregnant after 2 months.
Oh, that's amazing. I mean, well, we know now, I think most people know now that stress is probably maybe the number one cause of infertility, right? It's just,
Exactly.
it's when you're stressed out, you're not creating a habitable environment for another life, let's say. But that's amazing.
Well, we also did herbs, and this time I was using an herbalist. He was an herbalist as well. And I did change my lifestyle a bit. I stopped, traveling quite as much. I tried to have breaks in between trips, and just, went back to taking care of myself a little bit more. I started doing qigong again, which I had kind of forgotten about for a few years, and really then dove into the whole study of Chinese medicine and said, wow, I think I want to do this. And decided to make it my life's work. And in addition to, the nutrition as well. So it just made a lot of sense to go that route, because Chinese medicine is a complete system of medicine. It's not just a body work, not just acupuncture. It's, it's really looking at the whole picture. And it just makes a lot of sense to me that it's, a massage feels great, but is it going to really fix you? Everything? Probably not. If you change your diet, will it help? Yes. But does it help you deal with the stress? Maybe not. So, and in the last few years, I've become a qigong teacher and meditation teacher, and I'm actually getting certified with Tibet House right now, as a matter of fact, to teach mindfulness meditation. So I just keep learning and growing. And I think what I see now a lot is, well, I love working with women's health and all their issues through life, from puberty all the way through menopause, as we said, and stress in this world is just so intense right now. I find with teenagers, even middle schoolers, they're so stressed. So sometimes I just help people with meditation. and, calming down the nervous system and focusing on the breath. And that's, I don't know, maybe the women's health issues are stemming from stress in life. I think it's also affecting digestive health. So many people have stomach issues now due to anxiety, whether
Yeah.
it's gastritis or IBS, it's rampant. And you can change your diet all you want, but if you don't deal with the emotional aspect or the stress aspect, it's going to come back.
Yeah. No, it's so important. It's so important, I think. And I'm glad that I feel like more and more people are having these conversations. Maybe one of the good things that came out of COVID is that people are more willing to talk about stress and mental health, and, how important it is that people are aware of that and get help for that. And yeah, I mean, it's the number one cause of disease and death, in my opinion, is just stress, because
Right.
it exacerbates everything else. So any other kind of issue that you might have, stress is either led you down that path, or it's making that path worse. So I want to get into more of that. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we'll be talking more with Donna Bunte about Chinese medicine and acupuncture. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. We're back on the Dr. Diane Show with me, Dr. Diane Hayden. I'm talking today with Donna Bunte. She is a licensed acupuncturist and integrative nutrition health coach, and you can learn more about her at www.donnabunte.com. That's DONNABUNTE.com. And you can find me at www.drdianehayden.com. So before we broke, Donna, you mentioned a little bit about just your experience with acupuncture. I wanted to go down that road a little bit more, because I think a lot of people are still actually afraid of acupuncture and don't really understand what the benefits are. So let's start there, because
And how does
that's a
it
lot of
work?
what you do.
Right.
Yep.
Well, in Chinese medicine, we say we have these pathways of energy, or qi, your life force, that run all through our body. And those pathways of energy are affected by your circulation, your nerves, your muscles, your emotions. And these pathways can get blocked from stress, from diet, from injury. So, maybe you have an injury and you have pain, and so there's a blockage there. And acupuncture basically allows your body to heal itself, opening up those pathways to allow the qi or energy to flow, and helping the blood flow and the muscles to relax. It's a natural anti-inflammatory, and it's been proven by science that it does produce endorphins, your own endorphins. We're not adding endorphins. There's nothing in an acupuncture needle. It's a solid little filament that doesn't hurt. And yes, some people are afraid of this, but
I can attest to that.
Yep.
I've actually had it done, and I will say I was a little hesitant because I wasn't really sure, I knew it wasn't going to feel like somebody was stabbing me with a needle, but I felt like, well, it's probably going to be uncomfortable. But honestly, I can't say there was one point on my body where the acupuncturist, used the needle that I even felt at all. And it was so relaxing. Let me tell you, like, I think even more relaxing than a massage.
Yes, because it works at a deep level, and they've connected brain scans to people having acupuncture, and it lowers your heart rate. It's been used during surgery to have better outcomes because people are calmer, their nervous system is more relaxed, and it brings you to a state, and like an alpha state of meditation. And you don't have to believe it for it to work.
Right. Exactly.
Works.
Exactly.
I have treated dogs, and
Right. So,
there's no placebo effect there.
right.
So, they limp less afterwards,
Yeah. Well, I
So,
can attest, my experience was I was having arrhythmias
okay.
and no one could really figure out. I went to a cardiologist, just to make sure. I mean, me, I'm not the traditional medical person. I'm like, that's the last path I'm going to go down. But I'm like, all right, I'll just rule out like any, you know, serious cardiovascular
That is
issues. And
very
of
good
course,
advice.
yeah. And of course, they couldn't figure it out, then wanted to do some more invasive tests. I'm like, I'm not doing that. Um, and someone recommended acupuncture, and I went to an acupuncturist for about 6 weeks. I think I went 3 times a week, and I'll tell you that arrhythmia went away. I mean, it was amazing. And I forget what I honestly think that the only thing he thought, was wrong was just stress.
Yes. Yeah. Stress can do amazing things. It's
Not in a good way.
not
Not
a
a
good
good amazing.
yeah, it can do horrible things.
Yeah.
If you're stressed for a long time, you can bring on disease, right?
Yep.
Heart disease, cancer. I mean, not that I'm blaming people for their diseases, but we need to deal with our lifestyle, so that it doesn't have negative impacts on us.
Right.
We have to be more mindful and be in the moment, be in the present as much as possible. Because if we're always in the past or the future, we're worried about other things and not just, okay, what am I doing right now?
Yep.
Yeah, and
Yep.
that I think is what we all need to learn. We're so much on our phones, right? And just being present is a way to be healthier.
Right. Yep. And I'm sure you teach that with your mindfulness meditation. And I know so many people who say, "Oh, I can't meditate." And I just want to say, you know what? Just try for like a couple minutes.
Even those
It'll,
2 minutes
mhm,
calms down your heart
yep.
and your breathing. Just even if you can only do 2 minutes, you've gotten yourself out of that vicious cycle of the thinking loop and the stress loop.
Right. Right. So, how can people find you? Obviously, for acupuncture, that's something people would have to see you in person. But the other things that you do, you can do virtually. And tell us a little bit more just about what your plans for
Well,
your
I
practice.
teach qigong on Zoom,
Oh, cool.
qigong
Okay.
and meditation on Zoom, and I do one-on-one coaching. And I also offer some courses, different health courses, cleanse courses. We cleanse together, dietary, sticking to a diet for a week or up to 3 weeks. And that's not a fast, it's a healthy diet. Just like now in the spring, we would use fresh greens and liver inducing, promoting herbs and, arugula, bitter greens and things. And I'm also holding some courses on women's health. We can do small groups and a lot of individual coaching.
That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah. Well, any meditation work that you're doing online?
Well, my qigong class has meditation part of it, but I will be offering some meditation classes. Yes. I don't have a standalone meditation course going right now, but if I have people interested, I will start that right
Yeah. Yeah. And
away.
you're in Florida and Connecticut still?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
actually go back and forth. So I
Okay.
am still seeing patients in Connecticut like every 2 weeks.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
And whereabouts are you in Florida?
Miami Beach.
Ah, nice.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yep.
It's a very health-minded community here, as a matter of fact. Very outdoorsy, active. There's a lot going on.
I would say the same for Naples. When I first started going down to Naples, maybe about 10 years ago, it was very different, much older, generally speaking. And
Mhm.
now there's been such an influx of people. I mean, it's just, and I think the influx of younger people has actually helped the older people, kind of be more active and out there. But I mean, there's people are outside all the time, walking, biking, playing pickleball, you name it. It's just, it is, it is amazing to
Yes.
have that beautiful weather, throughout the winter and to be able to do that.
Yes. Yes. So yeah, I'm right now in both worlds.
Yep. Me too. And I love it. I love it. So this has been amazing. Thank you so much for all of the fantastic information. And again, people can find out more about you at www.donnabunte.com. That's DONNABUNTE.com. They can reach out to you on your website. Obviously they can find your contact information from there as well. And I hope that people will be reaching out and learning more about all the amazing things that you do with Chinese medicine and nutrition and your qigong and meditation.
Thank you so much, Diane. It's really been a pleasure being here with
Yeah,
you.
yeah. It's been awesome. And I want to thank all of you for tuning in to the Dr. Diane Show. Please join me the first and third Thursdays at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific. Next time on the Dr. Diane Show, we will be discussing more about the power of thoughts and beliefs and the impact they have on your life. Have a great week, and I'll see you back here next time.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning into the Dr. Diane Show, revolutionary expansion of mind, body, and soul with me, Dr. Diane Hayden. Tune in every Thursday at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern on transformationtalkradio.com. Center your thoughts on what you want and shut the door on every suggestion of fear, worry, or lack from your own consciousness or the consciousness around you. Once you master that, everything is possible. To learn more about me, Dr. Diane, and receive a free digital subscription of my magazine, visit naturalnutmeg.com.